first song is very new. We're going to try it out today. And in the theme of kind of living your own life in your own way. After all the lovers say if you get sick, I'll get sick too. Out of all the brothers, the fathers, the daughters, the mothers, there's out of all the dreamers who can see beyond this world, there's out of all the fighters who say this is the line we'll hold. We dream and dream and now we'll make it true. We dream and dream and it was me and you. After all the healers say I can make you whole, after all your friends who say if you trip and you fall off that street, after all the fighters who say this is the line we'll hold, after all the feelers who say out loud. We dream a dream and now we'll make it true. We dream a dream and it was me and you. 'Cause we'll hold this space for a while. For all the lonely souls who need but just one smile. We will hold this space for a while to show them all you can live your own style. I'm all the lovers who say if you get sick, I'll care for you. Cause out of all the healers who say I can make you whole. Cause after all the teachers it's all to find the way. Cause out of all the dreamers who can see all this world, we dream and dream and now we'll make it true. We dream and dream as me and you. Oh, 'cause we will hold this space for a while. For all the lonely souls who need our smile. Yes, we will hold this space for a while. Just to show that you can live your style. Yeah, we will hold this space for a while. For all the lonely souls who need just one smile. That we will hold this space for a while. We'll just show you can live your style.
All right, we're holding a space. We're holding a space for love. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. I'm Frankie and I'm so glad that we're here in person with live music and online for those of you that are joining us today or anytime in the future on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and wherever else we show up. So this is Tarsitano, and we're really happy to have him. He's not only a wonderful musician, he has CDs, so you can purchase a CD from him today. And he just told me this morning he's going to be a daddy. Him and his beloved Sarah are going to have a baby boy in a October sometime. So isn't that wonderful? And Steven is also our yoga teacher. So those of you who've ever done yoga on Zoom, he's amazing and he makes it easy for everyone and it's really fun. So we're glad he's here today in person. Those of you who are online, because you already know, you can find us on our website and on many of the social media platforms. We have lots of things happening here at the center. 2 examples are the weekend for Mother's Day. So moms, tell your family to bring you here. Those of you who have moms, bring your moms, because we're going to have a whole weekend with Armand and Angelina. They are really wonderful. We had them before COVID hit, and they are Armand says, Angelina is opera trained, and he says, I'm bar trained. So he does more pop, and so they're doing a celebration, and they're doing an angelic harp meditation afterwards, and on a Monday night they're doing a musical comedy. I don't know about you, but I think we can all use a little bit more laughter and joy and fun, and they bring that. There's also bunch of flyers over here, and there's one flyer that is for Kat who's doing her next sound bath in July. That seems far away, but it's May tomorrow, so time is flying. We also have a little flyer available for you because we want to remind you that we have people available to you to support you on your spiritual journey. They are called practitioners. We are all practitioners of this teaching or some spiritual teaching, right? But our licensed practitioners are those who are trained to support you when you go through life's challenges. And they are wonderful because they are not only good listeners, but they bring it back to the truth that they know so deeply. So we have, of course, Lori. And usually when the practitioners are here, they'll do what we call a treatment express. That's like a mini treatment after celebration, so you can experience what that's like or if you're in need. But if you need anything more than that, you can contact them and set up a session with them. Both Reverend Janice and I are trained to offer spiritual counseling, which is like an addition to what practitioners do. And so they're here to support you. I need practitioners myself. I have prayer partners and practitioners, and on a weekly basis to keep me on a straight and narrow. Well, not always straight, it's kind of a zigzaggy and narrow, right? But it's really wonderful to know that somebody is holding that higher truth for us. So let's do our Namaste practice, which is the Sanskrit word for the divinity in me sees the divinity in you. So you get to not only give, but you get to receive. So put your hands together and just bow and say Namaste to somebody. Namaste. 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 And let's treat, which is our word for affirmative prayer. So right here and right now, I turn to that space within me that is held by all those on the religious or spiritual path. That place of holding the higher vision for one another, for humanity, for our Mother Earth. And so we go to that place knowing that there is a secret, sacred place within our heart of hearts that is ever giving, ever available, ever full. And it's like this glorious infinite well that is right where we are at any time, any place, no matter what is happening. And today we declare that this place is so available that there is no need for any of us to struggle or suffer. When we find that experience of suffering or struggling, we know to turn to this infinite well for love and nourishment and compassion, and then we share that with those around us. Whether it is through small acts or great acts or medium acts, there is ever the opportunity to feel grounded in the very truth of our being, in our faith, in our trust, in this solid ground beneath our proverbial feet. Today we let go of anything that's in the way, whether we're aware of it or not, so we can be that space of receptivity, of deeper understanding, and deeper knowing that there is a truth that is ever revealing itself by means of our consciousness. And so that's a blessing to know this, a blessing to know this together, a blessing to be together and to remember and celebrate this, and a blessing to have wisdom available to us to be embodied, practiced, used, and received. And so it is. So it is. So, on the cover of Science of Mind magazine this month, it says vulnerability, which is the theme of this particular month. It's the power of vulnerability. And we've been exploring this idea of uncertainty, which seemed to have been made conscious through what we've experienced in the last few years as a global community. And it says emotional honesty, uncertainty, and surrender. And then there's this big round circle that says getting real and growing together. And I want to talk to that, but I want you to take a really deep breath, because I'm going to start out with some challenging thoughts and some provocative ideas that I think we need to talk about. I don't know if any of you have noticed this. I'm pretty sure you have. But I have noticed that humanity is really stressed out. I have noticed that mental health issues are on the rise. I have noticed that loneliness is at epidemic proportions. I have noticed that people are really struggling. They're really scared. They're worried. They're exhausted. They're tired. Have you noticed that? And I've also noticed that when people don't deal with those issues, that it gets to be projected onto the world. Hence, more crime, more guns than people in this country at the moment. More mental health issues, more alcoholism, more drug use, more suffering. And it is not looking good. It's not looking good. There are solutions. There are great solutions that are putting into practice in a smaller scale. But when we look at the globalness of it all, we are very aware that we live in very uncertain times. I mean, there's a war going on. We're not calling it a war, but we're involved as a country. And that's not the only war. There are other wars, right? There's health crisis happening amongst many people. There's division in this country in ways we've probably never seen before. And there's now a term for that, what people are experiencing. It's called eco-anxiety. It's called climate grief. There are now therapists who specialize in eco-anxiety and climate grief. Mother Earth has had it with us. She is dealing with what we've done to her, pillaged, plundered, raped, and she is suffering in such a way that people are struggling with their health. They're struggling with their homes. They don't have homes. So here we are. And so what this is saying, including what happened with the pandemic, because really the pandemic brought a lot of this to light, don't you think? So that was the gift of the pandemic, because the pandemic said, hey people, we can't keep going like this. There has to be a change, there has to be a shift. And then you hear people talking about, let's get back to normal. Well, that normal wasn't that great. And so we get to really become conscious of what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and what we're doing with that. Spiritual bypass is no longer an option. We can do all the affirmations in the world, we can do all the treatments in the world, but if we're still feeling that underlying, oh no, Even now, when I'm talking about this, somebody might say, well, she's in this teaching? How dare she speak of this? She needs to be more positive. She needs to speak the truth. Well, I promise you, I'll get there. The spiritual bypass is to not talk about the things that are happening in our personal lives, whether it's individually or collectively when we're suffering, and spouting out spiritual truths, right? But and I believe this, I believe in addressing the issues at hand and then saying, what's the spiritual solution and what is mine to do? What is mine to be in this? And so this is what the Science of Mind magazine said the other day. I really love this. I really have enjoyed this month with the new guides by, her name, Louise Talon. It's been lovely. She said on Friday in here, she talks about her practitioner teacher and practitioner for years, Johanna Bourgeois, who says, tell the truth of your experience. Lean into your feelings. Don't waste this pain. Don't waste the pain. I thought, what an interesting comment, and I've been thinking about it for a few days. Don't waste the pain. How do we not waste the pain that we feel or that we witness? We don't waste it by not bypassing, by saying, this is an invitation for me to rise up as a spiritual being with the wisdom that I've already embodied and experienced. And so that's what I want to go into a little bit deeper. So I think that we can all agree that the present way of life is no longer sustainable. That the pandemic kind of said, you are enough, you have enough, and you do enough. We've been told in this culture, probably in the world, that we need to get more money, more cars, more houses, more stuff. I mean, Bed Bath & Beyond is closing, for God's sake. They have the best stuff that we all need more of, right? And so the whole idea for us is to say, well, then what is sustainability about? What do I really need? And I don't know about you, but I discovered during the pandemic that I need very little and very basic. And that made me really happy. And so there's no longer this unconscious message, whether it's by politicians or the collective consciousness that says you need to have more, you need to do more, you need to be more, you need to get more, right? And so Joanna Macy called this whole thing that's happening in the world that basically says it's not sustainable anymore to keep going the way we're going. She called it the Great Unraveling. But she went further than that. She talked about the Great Turning. And that's what I believe is happening, is that what I believe is happening in the world, there is a shift in consciousness taking place. We're asked to be more conscious, to be more aware, to remember that life is sacred, to be more kind, to live more simply, to be of service to humanity and to our beautiful planet, and to be content with all the good that we already have, that we're already experiencing. Gilda Radner, anybody remember Gilda Radner, the great comedian, Rosanna Dana? Loved her. She said, I wanted a perfect ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme. And some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is about not knowing. Life is about not knowing. Having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. Have you noticed that that is something we have to let go of? Knowing what's going to be next. Which makes us have to live in this place of uncertainty. But in that place of uncertainty that's at the surface. And to take us deeper to that place of certainty, that's our spiritual foundation. That's our faith. That are the things that we can truly trust and surrender to. And so what we're called to live is a bigger story, a deeper story. That means that we kind of have to give up our regular story. the story that we tell most often, the complaint we hold the most dear, the worry that keeps repeating and keeps surfacing, maybe in the middle of the night, your greatest regrets, your greatest anxiety. These stories, we have to either surrender them and give them up, or we have to work with them, means embrace them and milk them for all it's worth, so that we begin to transform it into a different story. So if we have a story of lack, we have to begin to tell a different story, because if we keep telling the story of lack, we can't experience anything else. We have to stop telling the story of disease, because if we keep telling the story of disease, we're going to experience disease. And so what is that story? How do we tell that? It comes from a deeper listening. When I was going through my cancer experience, I never said the words, "I have cancer." Never. If you heard me say it, you misheard me. Because I was very conscious of how I used the language of that experience. And so I would say I'm experiencing an awakening through a physical condition. Or I'm experiencing cancer of the mind, and it just happened to have shown up in my body. So I chose to see it as a gift. It didn't happen right away, and it didn't happen 24/7, but I chose to see it as a gift, because the things that we experience in life that we struggle with are for us and never against us. So the story of someone or something is against us has to shift to, how can it be for me? And if it's for me, what is it that I need to see, need to be, need to live, need to say, need to express? I know this is challenging, but there's a reason why you're listening, why you're here. It's because you're on a spiritual journey, and when you're on a spiritual journey, you have a responsibility to show up that way in the world, whether it's with disease or lack or limitation or whatever shows up. And that's true individually and collectively, right? I'm going to come back to that. One of my dear colleagues, Carol Carnes, said this. She says, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, innovation, and change. But the world says, don't be vulnerable, because that's a threat. So we have learned this month to embrace our vulnerability and to see it as a place for rebirth. When things are the worst, when things look the worst, we are the ones that are to be called to higher ground. And we're here to support each other. Hence, practitioners, right? Have them support you in that. And notice what it is that you believe. What story are you telling yourself? And if it's a story of lack and limitation, how can it turn into a story of blessedness and growth and learning? So what's asked of us is that we have a shift in consciousness, remembering that all life is sacred. Remembering that all life is sacred. And if there's any opinion I have about what's happening in the world, is a loss of the sacred. The loss of treating our earth as a sacred planet. The ground beneath our feet as sacred. Each other as sacred. Is that challenging? Yes. Is it worth it? Oh yeah. And so the shift in consciousness then has to happen individually and collectively, right? But it starts with the personal. We look at what's happening in the world and we realize that we're not separate from it. We're not just a witness, we're a participant. So then what is ours to be, to do, to see? It requires deeper thinking. It requires deeper reflection. And we're so distracted. distracted by our smartphones. You know, it's the intention of your smartphone to distract you. It's like a drug. Have you noticed? Just how many of you have Facebook? Do you have a day in the week where you don't look at Facebook? Yes, I am so happy to see that. I unplug on Fridays, most of you know now. It's hard. There's such a temptation to check my phone. Make sure nobody needs it. Make sure I didn't miss out. Fear of missing out, FOMO, right? But at the same time, it is such a gift because really the intention of all these companies are to distract you. It's not a conscious thing. Facebook doesn't say, let me distract Kathleen from her sacred nature. No, it's just part of the collective consciousness that has drifted so far away from what is sacred that it's not even a conscious intention. But we're invited to be aware of what pulls us away from our own heart of hearts, from our own connection with spirit, from the truth of our very being, from that which is sacred, from that conscious connection. So the stories that we see, we already know from our teaching, that are on the surface are part of a bigger story. And that bigger story is actually that loss from spirit, that loss from the sacred, that sacred, secret connection that we all have. And when we have that deeper thinking, that deeper reflection, taking the time to pray for our planet, to pray for humanity, to treat for humanity, whatever you like to call it. I like to call it treat, spiritual mind treatment. To really be aware that we are instruments of the divine, and each of us as unique individualized expressions have a role to play in that practice. And it's important that that's balanced with everything else that we're doing, including being distracted, right? So I want to do a little practice to give you a taste of it. I know that most of you are already doing this. And I'm preaching to the choir over here because you wouldn't be here. But I want to do a little practice because that shift from that individual story of lack and limitation to that greater story of spirit being the foundation of who we are requires courage. It requires a deeper commitment. It requires that we face the heartache that we carry around about ourselves, our own lives, each other, the world. And that's where our spiritual practices come in. So I want to do a little practice inviting that greater truth that wants to be revealed. So I invite you to close your eyes for just a moment and take 3 nice, slow, deep breaths, making space in your mind and your heart for emptiness, for clarity. So let go of all the thoughts that have come to mind while you were listening, maybe some of the feelings that you felt, maybe what it triggered for you. Just put all that aside. It can wait. So maybe you have an image of clearing a blackboard or a whiteboard of all the words and images that are on there just for a moment. And then have come to mind something that has been pulling at your heartstrings. Whether it's something personal like relationships, finance, work, health, or maybe something more global, maybe some world issues, or issues that are very prevalent in the news right now that break your heart. Just bring one thing to mind that preoccupies you the most, whether personal or collective. And just hold it. Hold it for a moment. At the altar of willingness, the altar of love and compassion, the altar of the sacred. And just breathe and be with it. What story does it tell? Does it tell a story of lack, limitation, fear, worry? Just let yourself get really honest and say it tells a story of, without judgment, without editing, just your own honest heart. And now be willing to know that on the other side of that story lies freedom. So imagine that you are free of this story. Imagine that it no longer is, and no longer is a story. What has it now made room for? What can you choose to put in its place that's reflecting freedom? And now just claim it. Claim that space of what's new, what you've made space for, what you get to welcome instead of that old story that is now gone. And slowly bring your attention back. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So I had this really big insight this week, and it made me laugh because it was so ridiculously silly. And I say ridiculously silly because I have heard this since I was this big. Whether it was in the religion of my upbringing, the therapists I would see, the books I would read, not to mention being in this teaching for 4 decades. I was like, still there? What is this? And then I realized that it was something that is not just an individual thing, but it's the collective story. The collective story that is changing now is the story that we're not enough, that we don't have enough, and that we don't do enough. I don't have enough, I don't do enough, I'm not enough. How many of you relate? Okay, 1 or 2 people not. Yay! Be my guru. I will bow at your feet and kiss them and wash them. Because if you think about it, that's the collective limiting belief that we have lived in, that we have acted from, that we have projected onto the world. So whether you say, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough love, I don't have enough attention, I don't have enough work, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough in a relationship, I don't have enough education, what else? I don't have enough what? What else?
Productivity.
Productivity, energy,
Time.
time,
Happiness.
happiness,
Joy.
joy,
Food.
peace, food. Yeah, we all carry something, right? Whether it's conscious or not. And that has driven us to do, be, have, and it's gotten us into a pickle. And so the beauty of this teaching is it says you are enough. You have enough. You do enough. Because God, Spirit, divine life is the enoughness of all life. So wherever we experience a sense of separation from the true enoughness of life, it shows up in our lives. And when it shows up in our lives, instead of going to shop at Bed Bath & Beyond, or eating more food than we should, or working more than we need to, whatever it may be, we can turn within and remember and declare and claim the enoughness of life itself already within us, already available right here and right now. And that's our work. That's our work. So my affirmation again, after 40 years in this teaching, this week has been, I am enough, I do enough, I have enough. It's very free, right? It's very free. So I invite you to claim that affirmation, because the truth is we live in an abundant universe. We're never lacking anything. We're never limited. It's just the belief, and we know that it is done unto us as we believe, as the Master Teacher Jesus said. And we begin to pay attention to the beliefs that we carry, that there isn't enough, and we are committed and courageous enough to change those beliefs and harmonize them with the truth of our being, over and over and over again. And so, we set the tone. Those of us who are on the spiritual path, we set the tone, right? We remember that we're on the spiritual path. We remember what the source of good is, where the source of life is within, right? We remember that we must heal what feels broken. I love what Brian Stevenson says. Our brokenness is also the source of our common humanity. Duh. You're not alone, ever. Our brokenness is also the source of our common humanity, the basis for our shared search for comfort, meaning, and healing. Our shared vulnerability and imperfection nurtures and sustains our capacity for compassion. Our shared vulnerability and imperfection nurtures and sustains our capacity for compassion. So we embrace all of life, and we realize that as unique individualized expressions, we are here to serve with what's healed and what's healing and what we know are spiritual truths. We fill up on that which we think is lacking from the inside out, filling up on this infinite well of love, filling up on this infinite well of abundance and creativity and joy and grace and harmony and time. And we hold a vision for a world that works for everyone. This is the vision for Centers for Spiritual Living, a world that works for everyone. What does that mean in my spiritual practice? What does that mean I get to release because it doesn't fit in, it doesn't work, it doesn't serve anyone? What does that mean I get to hold more of? I loved your song, that idea of holding that place of truth and love. And it means that we hold in prayer, in affirmative prayer, in spiritual mind treatment, in meditation, in our spiritual practice, that higher vision of the collective consciousness that is shifting right now. What it is becoming depends on all of us. What it is becoming depends on all of us. And so what do we sing in our teaching? Treat and do what?
Move your feet.
Treat and move your feet, we say, right? Pray and act on that. It's not just treat and go unconscious, treat and go to sleep, or treat and walk away, or treat and pretend it's not happening. It's treat and move your feet. What are you guided to do? And Steve and I were talking earlier. I'm not a social activist. I never have been. But I can be kind to the people around me. I can be easier in New Jersey traffic. I can be less judgmental when I witness humanity going crazy, right? There's so many things that we can move our feet in more quiet ways or maybe more loud ways. But I know how this teaching works, and I know that it works, and I know that our living faith makes a difference in the world, and so we can. I had such a wonderful time last week in our annual meeting. We really got to see who we are. At the moment, a small community, but a community where people really love being together and love each other. And it doesn't take a lot of people to change the world, right? It can take us really holding that higher vision for humanity and being a place where people can come when they need spiritual nourishment and support. So if you're here for the first time, you can walk over to our bookshelf and grab a free book and receive a welcome packet so that you know a little bit more about us. But now, let's hear some more live music with Steve.
So, in the spirit of the talk, I'm going to just share a little bit about this song. So, this song was actually the beginning of our band together, Dream Alchemy. My friend Maria, a longtime friend, her sister passed away in high school, or a little after high school. She's a close friend of mine, and she decided at one point, maybe a year or two later, that she wanted to tell a different story, about her grief, about her pain. So she came to me, and she said, I really want to write a song about this. And the way that she did it was she decided to shift the perspective. So the song we wrote was from her sister's perspective. So this is that song. It's called Awaken. Awaken, my dear. Don't have to fear. Brings you to this place. Sadness on your face, all around you in those eyes. Stop the tears and heavy sighs. In every world there is grief, but you gotta get back on your feet. Stop and you pause. You'll be aware of some other cause greater than all of this. I'm right, I found the bliss. I get up and breathing deep, stronger than you think. Find your dreams and carry on. Dust off your shoes and start to run. You wake can't fall apart. Oh, you're waking my fears, run off the sphere. Do this one thing for me. Pick up your head, be happy and sad. Think of your life to be. You gotta be happy. Oh, gotta be happy. Oh, gotta be happy.
Yes, wonderful. I love that. To see it from another side and be that. So I invite you to grab some of the flyers that are happening here and invite people to come. There might be places where you can post them, like your library or your local grocery store. We also have these wonderful cards on the back table. Take these and give them out and put them up, and so that people come to know about us a little bit more. The greatest thing that I often hear is when people come and they say, I didn't even know you were here. I've been looking for you forever. So let's be a part of making people more aware who we are, what we're about, what we do, and what a blessing this beautiful teaching and community is. This coming Friday, our beloved Gail Belluardo will be hosting the Healing Circle. It's every first Friday of the month. So that's at 7 o'clock, and that's always a wonderful experience for people just to receive the healing life force that is within us by means of Gail bringing her wisdom and her grace. So those of you that are supporting us, we are truly, truly grateful. It makes all the difference. We invite you to stretch. We invite you to give and support us. There are many ways to do that financially. There's all kinds of ways. There's a list in the back. Volunteering. We are planning to have our Brookside Wellness Fair again. If anybody wants to be a part of organizing that, that would be wonderful. And supporting any of our events, or if you'd like some events that we haven't thought of yet. We are working on some concert series we might have. Steve already said yes. Yay! So lots of good things happening. Let's close with a healing treatment, I think. Yep. Which is, of course, our word for affirmative prayer. So I invite you now to close your eyes and place your hands on your heart. And feel that beat that requires nothing of us. That is the universal heartbeat. That is the universal, the infinite, the divine intelligence in our body. I mean, I didn't have to plug in this morning. That was pretty miraculous. And none of us did. And so right here, right now, I speak this word from the I am. Say me, my, I, which is our essential self. Each of us, our essential self. I am is our true name, is our God name. And so right here, right now, I open my heart, my mind, my body, my soul to the universal life force that is everywhere present in everyone, everything, all the time. And so I've been given this life to awaken to that. And there is no right or wrong. There just is. And so today I surrender to that level of beingness, trusting it more than ever, surrendering to it more than ever, letting it be my guide more than ever. So I get to slow down and be more present in the moment, aware of the sacred all around me as a reflection of what I know to be sacred within me. And so today I trust life a little bit more. I am willing to go to the source of love and creativity and joy and wisdom and grace within me and let it lead the way, let it inform me, let it heal me of whatever wants to be healed. And when I say heal, I use Dr. Ernest Holmes' definition, which is spirit revealing itself. And so I am willing then to let go of whatever's in the way, whether I'm aware of it or not, and experience a greater sense of freedom in harmony, in alignment with my true beings. This is the place where I know I am enough, I do enough, and I have enough. That freedom is something I am most grateful for today, and so it is. We have a little more music. Enjoy, Stephen. And Lori, are you willing? Because Lori is available for the Treatment Express, which means she'll be over there, and you don't get to tell a long story. You don't get to have any counseling. It's just, I want treatment for this, and she's going to treat for you. Sound good?
This last song I played once before for the center. It's called Love, Lonely Monsters. And it started, when I started writing it, it was originally, something I just was envisioning a Pixar movie or something. But then it became, as I wrote it, it became more than that. And I think now it's evolved, in my head a little bit more about just, appreciating people where they are, loving them anyway. And also those own monsters we have within us, loving them too. Love, lonely monsters, it's the way to live this life. Reach into their little caves, let them know they're fine. Just the way they are now, they don't change. They aren't so hideous, they aren't so strange. No, lonely monsters. No, lonely monsters. Love, lonely monsters, especially when they're sad, when they don't have the energy to scare you out of your bed. The lonely monsters, especially when they're blue. The lonely monsters, they are just like you. They're the ones hiding under your bed inside your room. They're the ones creeping in your closet. They don't want your food. They're the ones hiding under your bed inside your room. The ones creeping in your closet. They don't want your food, 'cause all they really want is love. All they really want is love. All they really want is love. And maybe a monster bear hug. Lonely monsters. Love. Lonely monsters. Love, lonely monsters, ones inside your head, dark fantasies, suddenly everyone's dead. Love, lonely monsters, the ones inside your brain. The lonely monsters, it's all a bit insane. They're the ones hiding in your head, inside your soul. They're the ones creeping in your mind. They don't want control. They're the ones hiding in your head and inside your soul. They're the ones creeping in your mind. They don't want this dark world, in the shadows, in the lonely corners of our hearts, waits a poor soul, lonely